heard, I'm Ruth Ibegbuna, and I'm the founder and the chief exec of Reclaim in Manchester. And we support working class young people to be leaders and for them to challenge leadership inequality. Now, usually whenever I talk about the fact that we support working class young people, there's some quizzical faces and a hand usually goes up to say, oh, isn't that an outdated notion, talking about working class? Surely, we're past that now. We don't have a class system in that same way. Well, we do. And our young people feel it very, very keenly. Our young people feel that as working class young people, they don't want to be described with pity as disadvantaged or disengaged. They'll cope with working class, but they want to work to kick the stigma out of being working class. Because our young people feel that they're really under the assault at the moment, because it feels like to be poor is to be ashamed of that. And they feel that quite often the media, our politicians, are turning them on other people like them. So they want to feel pride in who they are and where they come from. Now, I came from a poor city. I'm not from London. You may detect in the vowels. And I'm from a city called Bradford that I love very, very much. And Bradford's in the north of England. Growing up in Bradford was a joy at times, but Bradford really struggled with its sense of itself. And that's because as a city we were beset by social problems. We had racial tension, we had religious intolerance, we had a terrible tragedy at our football club, we then had the worst serial killer in the history of the UK. I mean, it just felt like every time you put the news on about Bradford, it was something negative. And it was hard as a young person to feel like you might be the next great leader of the free world growing up in Bradford. You're a long way from power and influence, i.e. London. And Bradford was even at the bottom of the school educational tables for the whole country. And my school was second bottom in Bradford. So there I was. Now, I have a Nigerian family, and those of you who know Nigerians will know that, we're not shy of talking about how wonderful we are. And so I was not the kind of person that was not believing that I could be a leader. My dad used to sit me down, I'm the first child, and he used to say to me, daughter, you will be the first black woman to be the pilot for British Airways. And I'd be like, yes, Daddy, okay, let's do that. Next day, you're going to be the first black woman to be the governor of the Bank of England. Okay, I can do that. So, I grew up feeling that I did have leadership potential. And I used to stride into school, my school at the bottom of the league tables, hand in the air constantly. Every single opportunity. Miss, I want to be a leader. Miss, I want to do that. And when I was 10, I'll tell you what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be, which tells you what an odd child I was. I wanted to run the UN. Probably my dad told me to do that, to be totally honest. But that's what I wanted to do in my state school, aged 10 years old. But when you go to a school where actually the teacher's job is to make sure all those children survive, that they get through, and then they move them on, they're not talking about the kids actually thriving and getting up there, but actually getting young people through. There were kids in my class that probably hadn't eaten that day. So actually me constantly putting my hand in the air, saying, Miss, look at me, give me attention, I'm a leader. I think I was just irritating to her. And I remember when we were 13 and we had to go on work experience. And you had to write down what you wanted to do for your week. And I wrote down, I want to go to the UN. Obviously, there's a theme here. And my teacher threw her hands up in exasperation and said, why is it always you? Why? And she put my slip on the table. And I was going to a hairdresser's for a week to sweep hair. And I went. And I had a wonderful time. And those women were wonderful, actually. And I bored them all about social injustice, probably. But as an adult now, I look back and I think to myself, if I'd been sat in a top public school somewhere, or if I'd gone to, a boarding school and I'd said, I really want to have experience at the UN, in reality, would someone have rung someone's mum or someone's dad, pulled in a favour and got me in there? Maybe not, but I suspect so. Those of you that are parents out there know what children need. They need food, they need water, they need light, they need love, but most of all, they need attention. And without attention, they act up, and they disrupt, and they're naughty, and they make a scene. And what we're actually doing with a lot of working class people in this country, especially working class young people, is we're casting them out into the shadows. We're not giving them the attention that they need and deserve. There's so much talent and potential, and I know I spend so much time on the communities and the council estates in this country, and those kids are amazing, and no one notices. And when we shine a light on them, it's to laugh at them through the lens of a documentary, laughing at some of their choices. And so if you starve people of attention, they will disrupt. And disruption's a very interesting word, because actually, if you look at our top companies and our tech companies, you know, Virgin, Cisco, Google, all those companies, to disrupt is the god. They're looking for young disruptors. They put adverts out asking for disruptors, for young people to come in, to look at systems, to see what's not working, and to reimagine them and to make them better. But if you're sat on a council estate in Manchester and you're told you're disruptive, believe me, no one's telling you it's a positive thing at all. And we need to make sure that we're allowing access and routes in for talented young people to feel that they can play a part no matter whether they're on a country estate or a council estate, that if they're talented and they've got ideas, that they can play a part in shaping this country. And a lot of young people don't feel like that. On a lot of estates, there are distractions there. There might be football pitches, there might be recording studios, but not every kid's going to be Messi and not every kid's going to be Jay-Z. And what if you want to be a chess master or a spy or a politician? Who's developing their critical thinking faculties? Who's working with those young people to bring them on and to bring them out? We told our young people recently that there'd been 19 prime ministers from one school. One school, not a town, not a city, one school to produce 19 prime ministers in this country. That's a disgrace. I'm going to say it again. It's a disgrace. And our young people were outraged, and rightly so. And what they said was they wanted to be the next generation of leaders, but they wanted to be ethical leaders who led for others, individual leadership for the collective good. So our young people talk about authentic leadership. We all suffer from imposter syndrome. We all shrink back. Just before you called my name out, I had imposter syndrome in a big way, looking for the exit to run out. Imagine if you're a young person from a social housing estate in a space like this. You won't be at your best because it doesn't feel like somewhere that you belong. So we at Reclaim really make our young people believe they can walk into any space with their head held high and be their authentic selves and not feel they have to change to become something else. So the theme of today is about building bridges. And I want to really implore everyone here to not ignore the very obvious bridges in your own towns and your own cities. It's so important that we actually connect to those people that are poorer than us. We don't think that they're different, and we don't think they're less valuable, and we don't think they've got less to offer. Reclaim will stop existing when we know that we've got a diversity of people at the top of our country leading us. When there's people with lots of different experiences, ensuring that we have a fairer future that works for all. And for me, that will be a peaceful and hopeful future. Thank you very much.